While we're on the subject of remakes, let's take a look at Inside. I saw this when this came out on video in the USA in 2008, and at that time I watched it in French with English subtitles. The version I watched just now was dubbed into English. I didn't mind it because it seemed like the voice acting was done well enough. The main character is Sarah, who is a woman who lost her husband in a car accident while she was pregnant. Is it bad that I don't like her? I know you're supposed to like the protagonist, but I didn't like her. She's supposed to be grieving, but she comes off as just bitchy and mean to everyone around her. I recognize that everyone grieves differently and that some people react to trauma by lashing out, but you don't get to act like a pure D asshole just because you went through something. That said, it was a legitimate choice for the writer to make for the character, and I can respect that. The camera work was done pretty well. There's some really nice handheld camera shots and some great shot compositions, like there's a shot with Sarah sitting on a couch with the woman in the background over her shoulder. It's really cool how it was done because the woman tends to kind of fade into the background. I didn't love the lighting or how the color was muted a lot of the times, but I got over it because the execution of everything else went so well. And this is the movie that has made me rescind my assertion that I hate home invasion movies. I did not hate this movie, and it definitely counts as a home invasion movie. Side note, it counts as a Christmas horror movie too. It may come off strange to say how much I like this movie, but I do. Especially since this movie holds up to repeated viewings. Poor Buddy on the stairs. He got messed up. I consider this movie to be a new classic. Intensity is amazing. The gore is excellent. The body count and different fatalities were exquisite. The only thing that didn't hold up so well is the CGI that was used to show the baby within the womb being in distress. That didn't look so great, but I got the point of it. And I like that they acknowledged that certain things would put a baby into distress. And all the blood. This movie is so bloody. Sarah starts the night in a white nightgown, and by the end of the night, the gown is red. Did I mention I love this movie? The acting throughout this is really good, especially the actress playing Sarah and the actress playing the woman, who have to carry so much of this film because it's almost like a bottle film at the same time because there's so few characters in it and basically just one setting, which usually is a turnoff for me in movies because I shouldn't say I don't like it. I should say that a lot of movies try to pull this off and then they are unsuccessful. This movie is successful in pulling this off. And if you haven't noticed, I'm being deliberately vague because I am not going to spoil a movie that is so good, and just watch it. Just go. If you haven't seen Inside yet, go and watch it. I don't care if you watch the dub version. I don't care if you watch the subtitle version. I make no judgment calls on that. I think both are fine. Especially a lot of people might be judgmental of people who listen to the dub version, but some people have visual impairments. Like I have a cousin has a little bit of double vision. It would be very difficult for him to read subtitles. So I've never been like, oh, you don't read the subtitles? How dare you? Like, I'm not that type of snob, and you shouldn't be that type of snob either. The important thing is for as many people as possible to enjoy a good horror movie, and Inside, in my opinion, is a good horror movie. I've been putting off watching the American remake because I know it's going to be some watered down trash garbage, but I had to check it out sooner or later, so I'm going to go give it a look and then come back in just a moment and let you know what I think. And we're back. The remake starts off a lot more extreme. In the original, we start from the point of the aftermath of a car crash. With this one, they show the car crash in a very over-the-top dramatic fashion. Also in the original, the woman was pregnant. But in this, it's not enough for her to be pregnant. She has to be in her 3rd trimester and also hearing impaired. I feel like they're trying to capitalize off the popularity of Hush, which I reviewed. So if you want to know what I thought of Hush, go into my... you know what, I'll probably put a little link at the end of this video for Hush. That's what I'll do. But yeah, I think they're trying to capitalize off the popularity of Hush by making her hearing impaired. I can see right now that this hearing aid thing might end up getting on my nerves, because new Sarah turns her hearing aids down when she doesn't want to hear the cab driver anymore, instead of just maybe politely asking him to stop talking. It also gets on my nerves because I have family members and friends that are hearing impaired, and it takes a hell of a long time to get your hearing aids adjusted just right, so that they're not picking up things they shouldn't be picking up, or buzzing or ringing or anything that's, you know, not ideal. It takes, I've watched them try to get their hearing aids, you know, set to the perfect adjustments. So to mess with that just willy-nilly, this had to be written by someone who did not really know anyone who was actually hearing impaired or uses hearing aids. It's been at least my observation that once they get their hearing aids adjusted just right, they don't mess with them. Matter of fact, they'll just take them off rather than mess with them. Remember how I said old Sarah was acting kind of bitchy and mean? New Sarah channels her pain more into sadness and depression than anger. There's a character named Isaac in this who was in the last one as well. In this one, they made his character gay and in a relationship, which isn't a bad change in my opinion. It doesn't really affect the story in any way other than offering more representation. Also, Sarah has a dog instead of a cat. Now that we have the most obvious changes out of the way, how was the movie? They take 20 minutes in this movie to establish what they did in the previous movie in under 10 minutes. There was no nurse scene, which I thought was subtle and effective in the original movie. And unfortunately, this one is boring. And the most egregious thing that this movie did was change out the scissors. The scissors are kind of an iconic part of the movie. In this, the woman takes the scissors out of the drawer, puts them down, and picks up a knife. That would be like if you made a New Nightmare on Elm Street movie and Freddy Krueger took off his glove and picked up a machete. You'd be like, no, it's not what he uses. That's like Pinhead without his chains. That's like Leatherface without his chainsaw. That's like Chucky without his knife. Like, what? Why would you do that? I mean, technically Jason did switch it up, like he used a couple other things, but machete is his standby. That's like his #1 favorite thing is the machete. I mean, in a pinch, Jason will pick up anything and stab you with it, but the machete is his thing. Isaac's demise in this was lackluster. Actually, all the fatalities were lame. I know I got bored because I started scrolling Twitter, and I usually like to try to immerse myself in movies aside from if I'm taking notes to review them. I don't generally play on my phone during a movie, but the fact that I decided to scroll Twitter tells me how boring this movie was. When I look back up from Twitter, the police had just returned to check on Sarah. The cops are pretty much useless because the woman stretches them out easily and quickly. And thankfully, at one point, the woman does get her scissors. Unfortunately, I don't think she did anything with them, but she had them for a moment. Here's the part where they add a whole bunch of stuff that was not in the original. At one point, Sarah's fighting a woman while driving a police car. That never happened in the original. Then at some point, she's in the house across the street from hers, and I'm like, what did you do with the police car? How did we get here? You know this movie's a failure when the movie is almost over and she's still in her white nightgown and it only has a couple drops of red blood on it. Remember what I said about the original in the gown. And because American movies want to over-explain things, she has to stumble upon the woman's wall of crazy. And here's one spoiler we just got to talk about this. She boils some hot water and grease and throws it on the woman, instead of how she did in the original with the lighter and the hairspray. That was iconic. The lighter and the hairspray, why would you change that? If it's not broke, don't fix it. Then something, yada yada, conversation on pool cover, then they're in the water. Then the woman saves Sarah, Sarah has the baby, and a happy ending? Really? Did the makers of this watch Inside, or they just watch the trailer for Inside and then base their remake off of the trailer? did they do this? This was such trash, garbage, basura. I'm going to learn how to say trash in at least 2 more languages. Like, I'm going to find out how to say trash in Korean and Swahili so I can trash this movie even more. So the directors, writers, and producers who take movies like Inside and Martyrs and more recently Old Boy and make these useless American remakes. You disgust me. Correction, this movie was a joint effort between US, Spain, UK, and France. So there's a lot of fault to spread around here. It's an international clusterfuck. And I haven't forgot about you, Rob Zombie, and what you did to Halloween. I already talked about that in a couple other videos. I'll probably post a link to that also, but I like Rob Zombie. I like House of a Thousand Corpses. I like The Lords of Salem. I really like that a lot. But what you did to Halloween? No. Even 31 grew on me. The one thing these 2 movies kept the same is the color palette. So, to wrap it up, if you haven't seen Inside, go see it. It's an amazing movie. I love it. Don't watch the remake unless you just want to be mad. But, like I always say, don't take my word for it. Just because I love a thing doesn't mean you won't hate it. And just because I hate a thing doesn't mean you won't like it. Watch it for yourself and let me know how you think. Have you seen either of these Inside movies? Have you seen both of them? What did you think? Let me know in the comments. Bye.